My name is Chris Ann Lewis. I'm Matthew Zadok Williams' mother. I've always been somewhat involved, from having the conversations with my son of how to conduct yourself in case you ever have to de-escalate the police, how to avoid these offenses that the police do on people of color. I've always followed on the news. I've signed petitions. I've watched my granddaughter at the protests go live since they wouldn't allow me to go. But I've always been involved but on April the 12th of 2021, it became extremely personal, and it's still unbelievable to me that my son, Matthew Zadok Williams, was unjustly shot by DeKalb County Police, and he was left to just lay there and bleed to death and just die. They didn't even render care. And that's how I became extremely lifelong committed, involved at this point. Because if it can happen to my peaceable son who was shot in his own home, it can happen to anyone. And that's why I'm involved.
When I see the rally of the communities, I have a lot of feelings, but mostly it feels heartwarming to feel that support, to have people look at us, because this happens every day. It's just like there's so much, the community can't keep up with it. But to see the community come out and specifically support us in our time of need is very special. That's the way it makes me feel.
I'm ZEPORAH Williams. I am sister number 4 of Matthew Zadok Williams. And what justice means to me, it means a lot to me, but more specifically for this situation, the top priority for justice is, number 1, to bring criminal charges against all the officers that were involved in the unlawful shooting death of my brother. That's 1. Number 2, I want to do away with qualified immunity altogether, and I want to start holding police officers personally accountable for the lives that they injure and take, without it being such a big fight and a big push. I also want to see, I would like for justice will mean to me to see a Karen law enacted in my brother's name, so that people, particularly white women, when they're racially profiling Black men or other Black people, they're being held accountable for, the violence that comes out of their racial profiling as well. And I also would like to see mental health experts called when police are not able to de-escalate people, or if they're not trained, or they can't follow the proper protocol. When it comes to de-escalating someone who's having a mental episode, I would like a social worker to be present, or somebody, a third party, to be called to intervene, so no one, has to die when they're having a mental health episode, a crisis, when they're in a state of a crisis. They won't be in jeopardy of getting murdered because of it.
My hope resides in giving meaning to the inconceivable pain that these horrific incidents, it plagues us. Giving meaning behind the pain will help eliminate the element of our people dying in vain. It's very important for us to give meaning to these horrific events, because otherwise it happened for nothing. And therefore we have to give meaning to it. And by meaning, I mean effecting change, rallying together, supporting each other, making sure that change actually occurs. Honestly, it meant a lot. It shined a painful light on social and racial injustices. It was very emotionally triggering. I recall during the incident of George Floyd, I was driving home, and I remember just crying in the car and just feeling all this pain of the images of his last moments. Like it really affected me. And although I didn't physically protest, I made sure I donated money just so that I could feel like I was a part of the movement. And being a part of the movement is very empowering because you're actively involved, you're actively participating in affecting change. Fast forward to April 12th, when my sweet, kind, gentle baby brother, who literally walked insects out of the house instead of killing them, when he was horrendously murdered, it's the pain is insurmountable. So again, I think it's very important to give meaning behind that pain. And the only way for us to do that is to make sure that we affect change.
I would like Zadok to be honored by people continuing to build traction around his legacy. I would like Zadok to be honored by people participating actively, them following our call to action, signing the petition that we have with Color of Change, them texting Zadok to 555-888 to continue to keep up with our call to action to see what's needed. That's the best way to honor his memory, is to continue to tell his story, push it in front of social media. And if you're not a social media person, if that's not your thing, then you know where your social settings are. Bring up my brother's name, tell his story. Because without that, then he's leaving behind no legacy. He's already leaving behind no generations. And so without his story being told and actual change being enacted, there will be no legacy for him. So the best way to honor him is to help us continue to build his legacy by advocating for change and pushing his story. We need to get this story pushed in front of as many people as we can, because without that knowledge, without that, the traction behind more people and more eyes, on the problem, nothing is going to happen. I don't want people to just get desensitized to all these things that are happening within our community, especially when it comes to, race crimes, when it comes to police brutality. People get desensitized. They hear about the story, they take a deep breath, they sympathize, and they move on. We need everybody to get up and continue to push and to be a voice. Without that, there's no other way to honor my brother's legacy.
My name is HAHNAH Williams. I am sister number 2 of Matthew Zadok Williams. And I thank you all for Color of Change for helping us start a petition in my brother's name. We are in the fight of our lives, fighting for justice for my sweet brother, Matthew Zadok Williams, who was murdered by DeKalb County, Georgia police at the tender age of 35. What people can do to get involved with us, there are 4 different ways. We are on social media. All of my brother's handles on social media are Justice for Zadok, as you can see on my t-shirt, ZADOK. The second way is you can email us at justiceforzadok@gmail.com. The third way is you can visit Zadok's website, which is justiceforzadok.com. And then the final way is you can text Zadok, ZADOK, to 555-888. And that way you can stay up to date on everything that's happening with my brother's case. Our family is calling for Chief of Police, DeKalb County Chief of Police, Myrtha Ramos, and CEO of DeKalb County, Michael Thurman, to immediately release all media related to my brother's case. That includes any body cam footage that has not already been released. That also includes the 911 recordings. It also includes the police reports, and it also includes the medical examiner reports. We are demanding that those items be released immediately. Second, we are calling for Chief of Police Ramos and DeKalb County CEO Thurman to immediately name all of the officers who were involved in my brother's killing. Their full names need to be released immediately. Lastly, we are calling for Chief of Police Ramos and CEO Thurman to immediately terminate the employment of every officer who was involved in the killing of my brother, Matthew Zadok Williams. All of these call to action items are located on the Color of Change petition. Please sign our petition, which will be delivered to Chief Ramos and CEO Thurman, making these demands.
Again, I'm DeBorah Williams, sister number 5. I am the closest in age to my baby brother. We're all 2 years apart. He and I were 2 years apart, very close. As my sisters have mentioned in earlier interviews, he and I had a very special relationship, where I will say that he was a great man. The best man I've ever known, the best man I probably will ever know in my life. Very gentle, very sweet. He had a brilliant mind, okay? The way that he spoke as a young man, the words that he used, he was brilliant, okay? Very supportive. He loved us dearly. Although he was the youngest of all of us, he was almost like the oldest in terms of being supportive and helping us obtain success in our lives. We could not do what we have done. We could not have achieved what we have achieved without my baby brother. My brother was also very funny. He could dance. He was athletic. He has about 10 nieces and nephews altogether. The fact that a young, handsome man like that would take time each year to remember their birthdays. I have 2 daughters. He would always call me on their birthdays and say, hey, isn't it Elijah's birthday? Isn't it Malia's birthday? Let me tell him happy birthday. It just shows how much he loved us, how family oriented he was. He was a great man, and I miss him dearly. And I hate that this happened to him. So I'm hoping I'm representing him well.
I want everyone to know that my son was just a beautiful man. And he was the sunshine in my life. He was someone that my husband and I, we prayed for years to have a son. And all the girls know that there's five sisters because we were waiting for that son. And he was just celebrating when he was born. Every last one of them, they would just make him sandwiches. He had never even made his own plate until he was 19 years old. And he said, when he said, "Ma, I'm waiting for my plate." And I said, "Son, just go make your own plate." He said, "But I don't know how." And I realized he has really just been pampered and just really appreciated, honored by us because he was so good. He never gave me any trouble. He's never been in a fist fight. He's very, very intelligent. I taught him the little bit I know about day trading, and he excelled me. He was just a very, very humble person. The last thing that he and I did was we Amazon shop, and we were going through pants he would want to wear, and he picked pants that were like $16, some $16 jeans. He said, "Just give me 4 in blue and 4 in black." And I was like, "Zadok, you can get something nicer than that." He said, "No, just comfortable, Mom. Just comfortable." That's just how humble he was, and just lived a simple life. It's still unbelievable. I always felt that my son, it would never happen to him because of his demeanor. And because he was the type of person that didn't go out and hang out in the streets or with bad crowds, I thought it would never happen to him. So this is all a shock to me, and I miss him dearly. I miss his morning calls. I miss the way he'd say "Mama" when he called me to make me laugh. And I just miss him. And there's so much I could say. His chicken spaghetti. He was wise. He was God-fearing. He was just a wonderful son, and I miss him. He was truly, as his name means, Matthew. He was a gift from God. And his middle name, Zadok, means righteousness, and he lived up to that. Rest in peace, Zadok, and justice for Zadok.
I just echo everything that everybody has said. It's kind of hard to put in words the measure of man that my brother was, and I feel still is, because the spirit like him, it just don't die and go away. I feel like it's still here. He was so highly intelligent. I can talk, and it just multiverse in so many different things. He knew a little bit about everything, so it was easy for him to have a conversation with him. You can start off talking about real estate, then it will change to stocks, and then go to search engine optimization. He will always have a wealth of knowledge to give you. When I would call him, he will always be telling me about the latest research, his book, the latest book that he's read, giving me recommendations for things. Just very, very wise beyond his years. And one thing that I admire about him is just how balanced he was as a person. He grew up in a house with 5 older sisters, and he's the only boy. So it had to take a lot of patience to grow up in a house with 5 girls. And it's been funny because when we all get ready, my mother will always take us out to eat every Friday when she would get her paycheck, coming back from Grady, and we would always go out to eat every Friday. And my brother loves food. He was a big food person. So when it comes to food, he does not play. But of course, us 5 girls, we have to get ready. And so he's like, why does it always take you guys 10 hours to go anywhere? It's like 2 hours apiece times 5, that's 10 hours just for you guys to get out the door and go anywhere. But just growing up in a house with sisters, I think it just helped with, I think naturally he was just a nurturing person in general. That was just his makeup. It was a part of his DNA. But just being in a house, he was able to, with 5 girls and 5 women, he was able to foster that. Then he started to have nieces and nephews. And a lot of people will be like, oh man, I feel sorry for you. You got 5 sisters. But he will look at them like, I feel sorry for you because you don't. Because my brother knew that we, like, literally we worship him, you know. We had a special relationship with him. All of us, we have such a bond. And it's like, it's always just been the 6 of us, and you know, it's a nice even number. So we have to divide off in 2s to do anything. If we were at Six Flags, it's you two. Now it just feels weird because it's just the 5 of us. So it feels like a link is missing. Literally, I'm walking out the house and I feel like I'm missing something. Like there's a limb missing, like something is not quite functioning right. And I know it's because my brother's not here anymore. To take a life like his, as great as his, it's unmeasurable and it's beyond belief. And the grief is just, you know, the strangest thing, reoccurring thing, because it keeps hitting us every day that he's not here and he's not coming back. So being able to be on a platform like this and talk about him and talk about the great person that he was, to combat all those clips of, you know, the media painting this picture of him being this knife wielding terrorist, which was so far from who he was as a person, how great his spirit was, is just very healing to be able to do that. So I thank you guys for giving us this opportunity to even talk about our brother. But you would never, it's only one Matthew Zadok Williams, and DeKalb County Police took him. He was snatched from this world, and there would never be another one. There would never be another person like my brother.
Unmute yourself, Beulah.
I'm Beulah, Matthew's 3rd oldest sister. This sounds kind of weird, but I just feel like I want to say something to him, just hopeful that he can hear me. But if I could say anything to Zadok, I would just say, I love you so much, and we're hurting really bad right now. And I want you to know that we're going to fight for you, for your legacy, for your justice, for everything. So just know that, Zadok.
What I want people to know is that what happened outside does not justify them killing him inside. If you Google the local media around here, they keep displaying the images outside with my brother having a mental health crisis with a knife outside. And I want people to immediately turn their attention to the fact that he retreated in his home. He wasn't a threat. They kicked the door in and shot him and left him there to die for no reason at all. It was heartless, it was cold, it was unlawful. And we're going to continue to fight for justice for that. And I just want everyone to know what happened outside does not justify what they did to him once he was inside his home. It does not justify it. Please sign and share our petition. Don't just sign it, please share it. We really appreciate all of the support.